Hello and welcome to Business Today. You're watching Ask Udayan, the show where we answer your questions on stocks. I'm Abha Bakaya. With me, our global business editor, Udayan Mukherjee. The Indian stock market has been riding the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the Fed's taper view and several other triggers. At such a time, how can one smartly adopt a balanced portfolio approach and earn decent returns in the stock markets? Do continue to send in your questions to discuss strategy at the number on your screen. We'll answer a select few on TV and online every Wednesday. Saurabh Makkar has written in from Gurgaon. He holds BHEL and SAIL. Let's listen in to his question.
Hi Udayan, can you share your inputs on the future prospects of BHEL and SAIL, government PSUs? And what should one do in terms of way forward? Should one sell, hold at current market levels? Please guide. Thank you.
I've never been a big fan of BHEL over the last many years. I think it's a stock which will continue to disappoint long-term shareholders because there are too many things stacked against it. I think BHEL's bread and butter is the thermal power business. And I think capital expenditure there is on a structural decline. People are just not adding thermal capex capacity, the NTPCs of the world. And therefore, to expect BHEL to do well is going to be very, very wishful and optimistic. And that you can see that in the order book, which is not growing at a good clip at all for that company. So the structural problem is one of its core business actually doing pretty badly. And on top of that, you've got this big receivables problem for BHEL, which is basically that the state PSUs and the central PSUs don't pay up on time, and BHEL has always had to struggle with that. So bad demand issue with a bad receivables problem, and on top of that, a very bloated workforce makes for a really poor investment bet in the medium term. Periodically, you get these rallies. You saw one last week as well. And a few months back, BHEL had worked its way back to about 80 rupees. I would say long-term investors would probably do well to use these rallies to exit and look at better companies in the infrastructure space. SAIL is a better one because globally steel prices are going higher. It's not that Indian steel prices are going up or have that much upside from here on because they're almost at import parity now. And on the other hand, the situation is complicated by the fact that coking coal prices have been going up. So sales margins might come under pressure, already are under pressure this quarter onwards. So because of margin pressures and limited upside ability or price raising ability, I would suggest that maybe Tata Steel or JSPL are better bets in the steel space to look at compared to SAIL.
Saurav Janna has also written in from Kolkata. He holds AFL. Let's listen in to his portfolio query.
Hi, I'm Saurabh Jana and I have a question for you that I hold AFL India shares and I am confused whether I should hold it or sell it when the share prices will go up.
No, AFL is a good company actually. It's a unique company because you don't have too many companies in the listed space of that nature. As you know, because you are a shareholder, that it's part of the mobile advertising sector in the digital space, and it measures the effectiveness of digital ads in the online environment. So AFL makes most of its companies from sectors like edtech, fintech, e-commerce, gaming. Those are the kind of sectors, and these are all sunrise sectors. So growth should not be a problem for AFL. I think it will continue to grow at 35-40% over the next 3-4 years. There was a small issue of late as Google changed some of its privacy settings, and that led to concerns on whether AFL would be able to effectively monitor the effectiveness of advertising, digital advertising. But I think those concerns might be a little overblown from the commentary that we've been getting from the management here and overseas. So the stock has corrected a bit. It was 1500. I think it's down to about 1250 or 1300. So the only issue is, of course, how expensive it is because it's in a high growth sector. That you won't find the stock below 60 PE, and that's a steep one. So periodically you might see corrections depending on the mood of the market, but structurally and fundamentally, AFL is a good company in a good space. I don't think it should worry longer term investors like you.
Okay. Shamik Das from Kolkata holds Lal PathLabs. Let's listen into his query.
Hello Udayan, this is Samik Das from Kolkata. I have 60 shares of Dr. Lal PathLabs bought at 2,960 rupees, 2960. I wanted to ask if I can hold the stock for the next 5 years.
Well, you actually haven't bought very much higher than the current market price. I mean, a lot of people have bought Dr. Lal at 4,000 and they're stuck with it because the stock's down well over 30% in the last 6 months. It's been a very poor performer, uncharacteristically, because the last 3-4 years have been very good for that name, but the last 6 months have not been. I think part of the issue, of course, is the kind of increased competition the sector is seeing. Now, a lot of the large hospital chains like Max and Fortis, and even some of the large online pharmacy chains are getting into the diagnostics or the testing market. And that probably means that there will be price competition and margins of Dr. Lal might come under pressure. I mean, one good case in point is that Dr. Lal has not been able to raise prices, diagnostic prices over the last 3 or 4 years. While its margins have not come down immediately, that is the fear which is leading to some kind of underperformance for the stock, and of course the fact that it's a 50 PE stock. But I think it's a steady one, and given its sample collection infrastructure built over many years, which is very difficult to replicate for many of these new entrants into the business, I think it's premature to write Dr. Lal off. So it might underperform for some more time, but eventually once valuations catch up, given that it should continue to grow at 20% plus, I think Dr. Lal probably belongs to a long-term portfolio. Diagnostics as a space will continue to do well in the years to come. I think it had probably got too expensive, and therefore some of these margin concerns are leading to a valuation adjustment as well.
Okay, Jatinder Singh from Delhi holds Tata Communications and he's also a long-term investor. Listen in.
Sir, I have purchased 200 share of Tata Communication at the rate of 1248, and I can hold it for at least 2 years. Please tell me the prospects of it. Thank you, sir.
It's an interesting space. I mean, as you know, Tata Com is the erstwhile VSNL, but there are not too many comparable stocks you will find to Tata Communications in the market because it provides international connectivity to enterprises. Some of these segments like the services and the digital segment are actually growing quite fast within the international connectivity part. I think the problem with Tata Com is one of its very large segments, which we call SIP trunking, which is called SIP trunking. It's like a virtual telephone call. That segment is degrowing, and that is leading to some kind of plateauing of growth or constriction of growth for Tata Communications. But I think given the kind of next-gen connectivity, international connectivity, which all enterprises are looking at and Tata Communications is trying to get involved in, it should be a good space going forward as well. And I don't see a situation where Tata Com, despite the SIP trunking issue, will struggle to grow at 20% plus. It's not a very expensive stock, by the way. It's only at about 20 PE. So I think for people who want to keep this as a theme in their portfolio, as a solid compounder over time, I think it probably belongs to that portfolio. So if you can take a little bit of volatility in your stride, which happens with Tata Com, it might be an interesting one, or at least a solid building block of a longer term portfolio. None of these are buy recommendations, by the way, but just an assessment of the fundamentals of these companies.
All right, that's all the time we have on this edition of Ask Udayan. But do continue to send in your queries. Udayan, thanks so much for taking all of those questions today. We'll be back again next week with more stock-related queries right here on Business Today Television.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.